Hi there, it's Sandy Amorum, and this is the first day of a 5-day commitment I made to offering a live stream to start to give you tips and strategies and simple ways to create a better feeling holiday season. And I'm going to get into that in a moment. But first, if you are new to the page or you don't know me, I want to tell you a little bit about my background so that you understand why would you listen to me. So I've been a coach for 20 years. I'm a master coach with a lot of training, a lot of experience, and I love what I do. I have a passion for personal development, and it really is, I would say, the career, the path that changed my life many years ago, and really reignited my passion for living after a difficult time in my life. So over the past 20 years, I've really done a lot of work and training and research to help other people have that kind of support and transformation as well. What else do you need to know about me? So I'm a 20-year coach. I'm also an Aries. I am the firstborn of 3 kids in my family. We have a Mediterranean background, and which means I can get pretty feisty at times. Um, but that's, according to my clients and my friends, that's usually a good thing. So don't let that scare you off. So today is the first day of this Mindset Reset Live. I called it the Live Streamathon because I've been wanting to do more live streams, and just like you, I have hesitated. You ever make a commitment, you want to do something, and then you hesitate and you procrastinate and you shrink back? And I've been doing that for a while, which is ridiculous. And so I thought, what better opportunity than the upcoming holiday season than to throw myself into this commitment full on, wholeheartedly, and start sharing more of my passion for this kind of work out there. So let me tell you a bit about the Mindset Reset. So the Mindset Reset is a 21-day challenge from December 1st to 21st. And it's going to take place right here on Facebook in a private Facebook group. And it really is an opportunity to check in every day for those 21 days to consciously choose, mindfully create how you want the holiday season to go. So this, whatever you celebrate or don't during the holidays, this can be a stressful time of year. It can be an exhausting time of year. And after having quite a challenging year myself this year, I have been practicing some pretty simple strategies and processes that have helped me to prepare myself for the holidays. So one of the things that I noticed coming into the last week or two is that I really want to feel more ease and more connection next month for the holidays. And so that's going to guide me in this conversation as I ask you questions about your holidays. So the first thing I want to do, though, is to tell you a bit about the framework that I'm using to really share this work with you. And this is something that I use in all my work, all my programs. It's something that I first learned from Dr. Joe Dispenza. However, I've adapted it for my own work. But the idea is that when you have a clear intention meaning you know what you really want, and you also have a clear emotional state. You know, some people call it a core desired feeling. For some people, it's an elevated emotion. So what that means is that it's not just any old feeling. It's how you most want to feel about that goal that you want. Okay, so the first part is a clear intention. The second part is an elevated emotion. And then the third part is inspired action. Now, here's the thing to remember about this framework is that the first two have to be in place before you take on the third one of action. So sometimes people start to take action before they are really clear on what they want and how they want to feel. Will that produce some results? Possibly, but in my experience, it more often produces frustration because your action isn't based in what's important to you. It's just kind of random, like take action for its own sake. So again, the framework is clear intention, elevated emotion, and inspired action. So the clear intention, what do you want? The emotion, how do you want to feel? And the action, what will you do or how will you show up in order to move towards that outcome that you want, okay? So let's start with the first aspect of preparing for the holiday season. Well, one of the things that I know, again, I know this from my experience working with a lot of people over the last 20 years, but also myself, is that we can easily fall into a pattern of tolerating things in our lives. We tolerate things, we tolerate people, we tolerate obligations, we tolerate a lot of things that don't work. And all of those tolerations drain our energy. So if you go into the holidays already feeling drained, what do you think is going to happen? Upset, frustration, probably trouble sleeping, exhaustion, poor choices, whether it's poor choices in what you're eating and drinking or poor choices in what you're actually doing with your time. So it really is essential that you take a look at what you're tolerating so that you can clear some of that energy now before we get to the holidays, right? Hi, Nikki. Yeah, tolerations are draining. They absolutely are. And, you know, there's so much evidence that everything, here's the thing, everything and everyone is either giving you energy or draining your energy. Now, can you imagine what would change in your life if you actually started to consider that before saying yes to things? Right? You could ask yourself, is this giving me energy or draining my energy? And then decide from there. Now, I'm going to give you a little heads up. Other people might not like this new way of being if you decide to take this on. But I promise you will feel better, right? And so you really got to look at, and this is something, again, that I do myself, is like, am I living my life for others or for myself? Am I creating this holiday season for others or for myself? Now, yes, I absolutely want to include others because, you know, I have people I love, I have people that I want to spend time with, but not at the expense of my own energy and well-being. So we have to look at what we're tolerating. So the first step, and you can grab a piece of paper and a pen, is to actually make a list of everything you think you're tolerating right now, right? Everything you're tolerating. So you can do this after the live stream. or you can do it right now. But I would suggest making a list of everything you're tolerating. And when I do this, I actually walk around my home and I look at things. And, maybe I'm tolerating unhealthy food in the fridge, or I'm tolerating a pile of laundry that hasn't been done, or I might be tolerating appointments that I didn't really want to make, or meetings that I did not really want to go to. And so right now, all you have to do is tell the truth about what you're tolerating. I know, shocker. You don't actually have to do anything about them just yet. I know, and I'm saying that because it can be quite confronting to write down and face everything that you're tolerating. So my invitation right now is just write them down. What are you tolerating? Okay, I'm gonna move on. So now let's look at the 3 parts of that framework. Remember, it's clear intention, elevated emotion, and inspired action. So let's look at your clear intention. This is all about your thinking, right? What are you thinking about? Because it's your thinking that creates your intention. Now, here's the thing I want you to get. Your beliefs and your thoughts create your reality and your results, right? Belief and thoughts create your reality and results. That is, for most people, a recipe for self-sabotage, right? Because if your beliefs are limited by what's happened in the past, what you're going to create is also limited by that past. And you have to break that pattern of listening to your own limiting beliefs if you want to create something new. So now, so your beliefs and your thoughts relate to that intention. The second part, the elevated emotion. So here's the thing about your emotional state. Your emotions can either empower you or they can send you into a negative cycle that, we can call it a bad mood. Sometimes have you ever noticed, sometimes a bad mood can last for hours or days. If you hang out in that mood long enough, it can become a consistent state of mind. It can lead to other negative states. So it's really important that we start to look at our own emotional states so that we can choose otherwise. Because unless there's other factors at play like depression or mental health issues, we actually do have a choice in how we think and how we feel. I know that doesn't seem like it often, especially when we're triggered, but we absolutely get to choose. And sometimes in the beginning that can be difficult, but that's human. That's not, it's not that you're failing, it's a human thing. So when you have a positive emotional state, you are able to respond to the circumstances that life can sometimes throw at us, especially over the holidays. If you have a negative emotional state, guess what? The response goes down, and what moves up into its place is reaction. So, and I use that word intentionally because if you think about a chemical reaction, now I was pretty bad at science in school, but I remember being in in the lab and having experiments, and a chemical reaction can sometimes be pretty messy, just like our emotional reactions. So how do we reduce those emotional reactions? Well, that's where we're heading in this week's live streamathon. Now, the third part, action, inspired action. Notice not just any old action, not just taking an action for the sake of action, inspired action. Because here's the thing about this one. Action isn't enough to produce what you want. If your intention and your emotion aren't clear, the action won't be as effective. So have you ever noticed, you ever had an experience where you feel like you're working really, really hard, but you're not quite getting the result you want? You don't know what's wrong. You're in action every day. You're doing all the things, but you're still not getting the result. My guess is that you weren't clear on what your intention was or how you wanted to feel about it. And that's usually when action gets derailed. So in this framework, you really have to allow yourself to be clear on the first two, the intention and the emotion, before you take the action. I'm going to give you some examples of that, okay? So, now, relating to this challenge of the mindset reset. So, your mindset, you would think, is made up mostly of your thoughts, except how we feel in our body, how we feel in our spirit or soul also plays a part. So even though I've called it the mindset reset, it's really about alignment with your mind, body, and soul. It's not just your thinking. It's the whole package. So let me ask you this. On a scale, and if you're here live, you can chime in. On a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied or balanced do you feel in your life right now? How satisfied or balanced, right? This is going to give you an idea of the work that you need to do if you want to have a better feeling holiday season. So on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being really balanced or satisfied, and 1 being, whoa, there's work to do, where are you on that scale? And if you feel comfortable, you can let me know in the chat. Actually, let me just see. Okay, good. And then the other thing I recommend is that you actually do this for each area. So how satisfied or balanced do you feel with your mind, with your body, with your soul, right? So if you want to take it even deeper, that's how you can do that. And when I talk about balance, I don't mean what a lot of personal development and coaches talk about. I don't strive for a balanced life. Balance is the carrot always dangling just in front of my nose, and life is not static, and so balance is always this unattainable goal. I have found it way more useful to think about balancing. So imagine, that, like, because it's an action, it's an active, engaging energy. Balanced, even if you're balanced for a moment, in the next moment, you could slip, life could throw you a curveball, something will happen and throw you off balance. So you're never really balanced for any length of time. So it's a ridiculous thing to strive for, in my humble opinion. I know a lot of coaches would disagree, but there's that Aries thing. Did I mention I'm also kind of a rebel? Anywho, so when I talk about balance, I am talking about balancing. So, for example, I love my work. So I often will spend hours at my desk creating content, talking to people, really doing the things that I love in my business. And sometimes I work more hours than when I used to work for an organization, right? There's this fantasy of, like, when you're self-employed, that you work 20 hours a week and you take your laptop to the beach. that might work for some. It's never worked for me. So for me, if I have a week where I'm really busy creating stuff for my business, and actually I have a couple of weeks scheduled like that right now, right before the holidays, you know, if we look at balance, that means that, you know, most people would say, well, you also have to have the same amount of time where you're not working. That's not what, again, that's not what works for me and my perspective on balance. What works for me, let's say I work 5 days in a row and I'm super busy those 5 days. What balances me is to take a couple of days off completely and unplug. I don't need 5 days off to balance 5 days of work. You see what I mean? So balance is a tricky concept for most people because there are unrealistic expectations and ideals out there that can set you up for failure and disappointment. Instead, I look at balance. Balance as an active, you active participating in the balance. Okay. So here's the thing. Why did I want to talk about this for the holidays? Because mostly don't we want to feel like we're in control of our lives? And the holidays are often a time when life can throw some unexpected circumstances and we're thrown off our game. Things can happen, and it can set us off into a spiral of negative thinking and a very negative emotional state. So when that starts to happen, when we're thrown off balance, we start to feel out of control. And so it's important to have some tools so that you can actually restore your sense of equilibrium, restore your feeling of groundedness, and that way you can still feel like you have a sense of control even when life circumstances don't go your way. So let's see, what do I want to say now about balance? Now, here's the thing. I'm not saying that balance isn't possible. I'm saying that it's the way that we go after it that causes disappointment, right? Yeah. So, you know, we pressure ourselves, and sometimes people pressure us, like you should take more time off, or you shouldn't work so hard, or blah, blah, blah. Another example from my own life is my love of silent retreats. Now, most people think that I'm an extrovert. I used to think that myself a long time ago. But over the years, I've discovered that I am more of an introvert than I am extrovert. And what really works for me is my way of balancing my energy is after I've been with people or talking with people or, you know, giving my energy in service or contribution to others, the best thing that I can do is be by myself, unplug, unwind, and when I have the time or when I make the time to go away for 3 to 4 days to a silent retreat and completely check out. Now, I've heard from a lot of people that that's their idea of torture, and you know, I'm not saying it's for anyone, but here's the thing: when I come back from a silent retreat, oh my God, I feel like I can keep going for weeks, even months. So for me, let's say 3 days of silence by myself balances like 3 months of engagement and interaction and conversations and daily connection with people. Does that make sense? So again, You wouldn't think that would be balanced 3 days, 3 months. But for me, it really works because it's the intensity of that time alone and the silence where I'm completely restoring, or you might say recharging my own battery. So back to our mind, body, soul alignment, right? Again, you could say, you know, all those 3 parts have to be balanced, but what's more important is how do they feel for you, right? Sometimes the body is calling for more attention. Sometimes it's the spirit, the soul. Usually the mind is okay because the mind is overworked and yeah, the mind is always on. Notice trying to go to sleep at night or when you're wanting to meditate and the mind chatter is like going off the charts. So we have to start to look at how are we caring for those 3 parts of ourselves? Are they aligned? Are they feeling good? Or do they need some attention? Especially when things get busy and demands are made of us, like over the holiday season. So, so if you answered the question, you know, how satisfied or balanced do you feel in your life or in each of those areas, mind, body, soul? My next question to you is, let's say, let's see, someone said 6 out of 10 and someone said 5. Okay, let's say if you're a 5, if you feel satisfied at a level of 5, what would it take? What would it look like to move that to a 6? And if you're at a 6, what would it take to move it to a 7? Right? Only 1 notch higher. This is really important because, again, a lot of coaching online, you know, asks us to play a bigger game, make a big goal, dream big, etc., etc. Well, that can often defeat your intention because those bigger goals, those bigger dreams require more from you. And as soon as your lizard brain, that part of you that wants to keep you safe, as soon as it feels threatened, and listen, that kind of change is threatening. So as soon as your lizard brain feels threatened, it's going to try to shut you down, and it will do that no matter what in order to keep you safe. So instead of trying to go from a 5 to an 8 or a 6 to a 9, what if all you did was move that needle 1 point? What would it take to move that to a 6? What would it take to go from 6 to 7? The analogy I usually use when I'm working with clients is it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like trying to jump across the Grand Canyon. So wanting to go from 5 to 8 is like such a big leap mentally, emotionally, that, you know, it's impossible. It can feel impossible, which is why pressuring people to play a big game and put yourself out there can really be defeating. So instead of that, why not take a small step forward and then another small step forward? And what you'll find pretty reliably is that when you take small steps consistently, you actually produce better results, more sustainability, and more consistency. So because the change is smaller over time, it doesn't trigger that part of our brain in quite the same way. So we can actually keep doing the work that we want to do to move forward. I like to call it the sneak attack. We're actually kind of bypassing the amygdala, the lizard brain, and actually just getting on with the work of change that we want to do. Phew, what a relief. So, okay. Let me ask you another question. Or actually, just close your eyes for a moment. I want you to try something out. So, if you close your eyes and you imagine a day where you took exquisite care of yourself. You took exquisite care of yourself, and in all those areas, mind, body, and soul. What would that day be like for you? Just let yourself imagine what it would be like to take such good care of yourself, especially during a busy time when there might be lots of demands on you and your attention. Right? What would it be like to take such good care of yourself? And what if we have that be our intention for the rest of this week? Just for this week, see if we can start taking better care of ourselves. And again, does that include self-care as we've come to know it? Sure. But I'm also talking about caring for yourself. So, if that feels like a manicure and a pedicure and a hot bath and all those good things, great. But sometimes taking better care of yourself means saying no to an invitation that you really don't want to go to. Sometimes taking better care of yourself means taking the extra time to go home for lunch rather than catching a quick bite to eat on the road. Sometimes taking care of yourself is going to bed a half hour early, even if all you do is read for a half hour or listen to a meditation or something like that. There are lots of self-care practices, and sometimes, let's face it, they'll probably always feel good. Are they taking care of the inner you as well, is my point. Does that make sense? So when we start to create this ever-moving balance between all three, mind, body, and soul, we start to create for ourselves a feeling of being more present in our lives. We start to become more mindful, which often leads to better, healthier habits, especially during the holidays. We can feel less overwhelmed, less stressed, also more flow of energy and more consistency in our emotional state. So these are all ways that you can begin to really reset your old programming. The programming that tells you, and as this is especially true for women, the program that tells you you have to do all the things for everyone at this time of year, that you have to bake 6 dozen cookies, and you have to go to all the events and eat all the food that's put out in front of you, and you have to also do all the shopping, etc., etc., etc. That programming is strong. Now, if you can do all those things after taking care of yourself first, go for it, right? The point is not doing those things. The point is you putting yourself first before you say yes to all that stuff. Because will saying yes to all that stuff make a difference to your life in 10 months? Will saying yes, over-promising, over-committing, people-pleasing, and all that stuff make a difference in 10 years? The impact of that is now, when you most want to be there for the people you love, including yourself. So, whew, this can be a challenging conversation. Again, because we are so often programmed to say yes. And so I'm really inviting you this week to try it on with me. Just notice where you feel dissatisfied or disappointed in your decision, or or that you're really tolerating something. So as I begin to wrap up this first live stream, I really, really, really want to invite you to finish that tolerations list. What are you tolerating? And then come back tomorrow, same time, same place, 6 p.m. Pacific. And we're going to start to look at practices that will support you in creating and maintaining a healthier holiday mindset. And some of them might be familiar to you, but I've got some things coming up that I think might surprise you, and I would love to share them with you. And here's the thing, if you come to the live streams every day this week, your name will be entered to win a spot in the Mindset Challenge that starts on December 1st. So that's incentive. All right. If you already want to join the Mindset Challenge, I will post the link. Actually, I can do it right now before I forget. Hang on tight. There we go. The link for the Mindset Challenge is in the chat. And otherwise, I will see you tomorrow at 6 o'clock Pacific. And I would love to hear, if you're watching this after the fact, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you have any questions for me, feel free to put them in the chat. And I will hopefully see you again tomorrow at 6 p.m. Pacific. Thanks for being here. Bye for now.